Hello there, you beautiful soul, and welcome back to the second segment of Culture Talks and the Cultured Society channel. So, I want to welcome you and I want to take the time to thank you for joining us today. I have a very special guest with me, a woman that has completely just elevated my transformation. And I had mentioned in yesterday's segment that I am going to be bringing on souls that are making waves on this planet. Women and men that I have come across through my journey that have just poured life into me, pouring life into humanity, and just shining a light in the midst of darkness. We have experienced a lot of darkness over the years, and oftentimes it really is about perspective and how we can look at our life from a higher perspective to recognize that everything that is happening in our world is happening for a reason. And that if you are experiencing anything other than heaven on earth right now, I invite you to look deep inside of you and recognize that you are the image of our creator. And it doesn't matter what or who you believe in, where you come from, just anything that has to do with your upbringing. It doesn't matter. Whatever you believe in to be true for you, that it is exactly where you need to be, and it's the exact experience that you need to have in order for you to wake up and do something different every day, to experience more abundance, to experience more joy, to experience more happiness. Because at the end of the day, that is an inside job. And in order for us to really experience the fullness of life, we have to experience that within us first. And my special guest today is a woman that came into my life when I was really on a journey to a higher purpose. And, I met Carolyn at a serving kitchen, at a food kitchen in Mesa, Arizona. And mind you, I am from Las Cruces, New Mexico, where I currently reside. Um, but I my journey took me through several moves, and before I transitioned back to Las Cruces, New Mexico, I was living in Phoenix, Arizona, so in between Phoenix and Scottsdale. And during that time, I got involved in a lot of service. Well, I service work has always been a part of my mission, but I think that I became a lot more intentional about it when I moved to Arizona. And so it was a very specific day that was going by really fast, and I didn't even know that I would be able to make it to this event, but I was like committed. And everything that I do in my life is all about commitment, right? You had to take responsibility for the decisions that you make, and also recognize that we are the architects of our life. So every day we're creating, and we can make a decision, yes or no, go right or left, right? It's a decision every day. So I had volunteered for this assignment, and I needed to make it even if I was going to be late. Well, that day that I arrived, Carolyn and I saw each other, and we ended up serving on the same, like we ended up serving desserts together. And we didn't really have the time to talk much because we were so focused on serving the homeless that were there to be served. And towards the end of our service time together, we really started to connect. And I believe that connection can be so fluid if you're open to it. And I was very open to connection pretty much all my life, but it was one of those things where, like, I was just allowing myself to flow through my days and just accepting what was, right, or what is. And so Carolyn and I really, like, we just found common ground in a lot of areas of our life, and it seemed like our lives were just so similar but so different, right? Because she's from Wisconsin and has moved a few times, but how does she end up in Arizona during the time that I'm there? And then we're serving at a food kitchen, and we come together to serve in the same line, and we have so much in common. Isn't that amazing? It is amazing. And so she told me that she did mission work. And I had never actually gone on a like an organized mission trip. I'd done a lot of mission work through my time, but going to a different country and serving a certain amount of time, I had never done it like that. And so she had mentioned Guatemala that next year, and I was like, what do I have to do? What do I have to do to get in? And it's crazy because that next month I signed up for this mission trip, and I raised the support in 1 month. And she was so just very supportive during this process, and we just had so much in common. Yoga, I mean, there was so much, right? So that is how our relationship flourished. And we, through this time, ended up doing mission work together twice in Guatemala. And then we did several mission-based assignments in Phoenix together. And I'm just so grateful that this beautiful and angelic soul agreed to be on this platform today, because it is just so important for people to be introduced to humans that are making waves again, making waves, and just really disrupting the societal norms, right? Because there is so much that you can do to live life more abundantly. And it doesn't even have anything to do with materialism or money, like financial prosperity, right? Your financial prosperity really comes from operating in your gifts. And so with this, I had asked my guest to create a bio for themselves, because it's more of a reflective way of looking at your life, right? And I'm just a mirror of that. And so what I did was I basically interpreted it in my own way. And so I want to read this short bio of Carolyn, and then go into a series of questions that really allow us to see life from the perspective of the speaker's lens, right? To be able to speak words of wisdom through experience, and to show the world that there is so much more to life than just living the rat race lifestyle. So Carolyn in English, meaning joy and song of happiness. Over the last decade, she's been on a journey of healing and transformation. It's been incredible to look back and see how beauty does actually flourish through the ashes. What happened in her life most definitely was birthed out of struggles, hardships, loss, depression, despair, and hopelessness. Looking back at her experiences and being in complete awe of it all, her faith and belief in God changed when she realized that the Creator is ultimately in control and has the ability to take what is broken and make it brand new. Her life verse is Isaiah 61, 1 through 3. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is upon me, because the Lord has appointed me to provide for those who grieve, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of spirit of despair. They will be called oaks of righteousness, a planting of the Lord for the display of his splendor. In her early 20s, she was extremely lost, battling a severe eating disorder, alcoholism, depression, and sadness. She worked and pursued many things to distract herself from reality and to try to fill voids. The more destruction that she caused to her body, mind, and spirit, the harder life became. One day, after a big awakening, she had to make the choice and ask herself the hard question: Carolyn, do you want to live? She knew at that very moment she was not living, she was just surviving. She made the bold decision to pack her car and move alone from Wisconsin to Arizona. The land of the sun became a place of healing for her. She found yoga there. She began her vegan plant-based eating and learning to nourish her body again after starving it for so long of vital nutrients it needed to thrive. She found joy through volunteering and serving. She found God again and was rebaptized, but most importantly, found herself again. Reflecting back to fall of 2015 when she lost her best friend and mother to cancer, it was as though her entire world and perspective changed about the value and gift that each day offers. She started to travel more and continued doing mission work that her mother supported the few years before she passed. She began seeking more, and wanting more led to healing the parts of her that were still broken. In 2017, she traveled to Hawaii for her first yoga teacher training, which led her to step into a more passion and purpose filled path. This became a daily mission and allowed her the ability to circulate her gifts more responsibly. Her hope is to bless lives and help others heal, love, grow, and live their best life, to inspire them to live a life that brings an abundance of joy, fulfillment, and higher purpose. With this, I introduce the beautiful Carolyn Blackmon. So, Carolyn, thank you again for taking the time to join us today. I know that you are a very busy bee, and it is an honor, sister, to have you in my space and sharing your gifts with the world today. So I want to start off with I actually sent these questions, these series of questions to all of my guests. And again, everybody's life philosophies and perspectives and experiences are so different. So it is important that we open up the space for people to share those philosophies. And so with that, I want to ask you the first question. Carolyn, what is your life's philosophy?
Rebecca, first of all, thank you so much for having me today. This is just a beautiful time for us to come together. And every conversation that I've had with you, Rebecca, has been one that's always leaves me feeling better about myself, about my mission, about what I'm doing. You always show genuine appreciation and fill me with words of affirmation. And it's each conversation that we've had has had just great wealth and value to me that I can't even express in words. And so, by you bringing us together today to share this conversation with the world and also bringing other beings onto these talks is amazing because we all need each other and we're just creating a greater bond of unity. So, I really appreciate you and thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. Um, Wow, life's philosophy involves so many different things. But above all, I always tell people I believe in a creator. I believe that we were all created uniquely, placed on this earth for a specific reason at a specific time. And from a young age, I spent a lot of time out in nature, outdoors, and just being in the earth and seeing the beauty of God's creation, creatures, plants, humans. And so I know the value of human life. But I don't know, there were many years where I guess I would say I took it for granted. And so even though my philosophy was based around this notion that we're all here for a reason, we're all created, we're all supposed to love each other and do good in the world, um, it wasn't really elevated until later on. Um, so yeah, that's just the foundation, I guess. All comes back to my faith and my belief um, of just exist. But there's a difference between existing and actually thriving.
Absolutely. And you said it so beautifully in your bio because oftentimes we are stuck in these vicious cycles. And, we spoke about it in our segment with Asta about how oftentimes we have to have the rug pulled from underneath our feet or have major disruptions for us to do something different. And tell me how that philosophy evolved over the years, especially after your mother passed, because I can't even imagine what it would be like to going would be like to go through that, especially at a later phase of your life where you've experienced so much life with your mother.
Yeah. Gosh, yeah, that was definitely a pivotal turning point. Before her passing, I felt like my days were very full. Like I wasn't wasting time at all. I was working, I was achieving my goals, I was very social, I was bringing people together in all kinds of social settings. I was doing many things with my day. So I felt like I was making the most of my time here on earth. But at the end of the day, I was just so burned out. Like my light was burned out and I wasn't happy. And I was battling with depression and a negative self image and low self esteem. And I just was like stuck in this cycle of like working, doing, just to like fill my days, to find fulfillment by socializing with other people. Um, and there wasn't much time for exploration or nature or hobbies. And so I would go to bed at the end of the day knowing that I did a lot. Like I said, I got a lot done. I accomplished my goals. I did everything on my checklist. I went to work. I was productive, all of these things. But then I would wake up with just like a heaviness and a sadness. And then I just knew like I had to go to work. I had to show up. I had to arrive, put my game face on. And it was just like this never ending cycle. And it just started like depleting me. And I wasn't taking care of my body. I wasn't nourishing myself. I was starving my body, trying to get into a place where I had, I guess, a better self image. I thought that by um, creating a more slender figure or more appealing figure, that I would not only be more desirable by men and other human beings, but I would also find a greater self love for myself. And through that depletion of my body, I became more tired and like more exhausted. I didn't have the energy to keep up with my calendar and all that I wanted to do. And so then I started becoming frustrated. So I'm frustrated and depleted and stressed and unhappy and depressed. And it just kept building and building and building and building until it like had me on my hands and knees one day. And I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I can't go on this way. And like, do I really want to live? Because if I really want to live, like, I can't go on doing this. I
Mhm.
need to make a change.
Yeah.
So after I decided to move to Arizona, I really felt like that was like the dividing line between my old life and my new life, if that makes sense. And so when I decided to cross that line, I call it the state line into Arizona, and began my healing process, it was very lonely for a long time. And I had to do it alone. And I remember taking many walks alone, and I started hiking for the first time. And I remember having conversations with my grandfather, my mom's dad, on the phone, and he was living in Wisconsin at the time. And he was kind of on his own healing journey as well. After he lost my grandmother, he started going to yoga classes once a week at a community center, and he found so much fulfillment through those classes. They helped him mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and it was something that he looked forward to every single week. Like he just couldn't wait to get there. He couldn't miss a yoga session. So he was like, Carolyn, you should go try yoga and it might help you with your healing. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do that. I was terrified. I remember my first yoga class, just terrified. I felt like I didn't fit in. I felt socially awkward. I didn't have any confidence. Like I didn't know what I was doing. Um, but yoga has been in and out of my life for like the last decade. So that was definitely a part of my healing journey. And then also like stepping into serving others and helping others, I was able to bring more joy back into my life, which kind
Mhm.
of led more into like my philosophy for life now is to love well and to serve well. And not only others, but myself, to take care of my temple, to take care of my body, and not to feel bad about taking time out for myself. And so now it's all kind of coming together in full circle, is knowing that I was created by my Heavenly Father. I'm perfect in His image. I don't need to change a thing. And then knowing like we have our own unique purpose and calling that we should live out, we should follow that nudge. And then serving others and serving ourselves. So it's all kind of come together in the last few years.
That's beautiful. Well, then that goes to my next question then. How has your upbringing and circle of influence impacted the way you live and think well, just live your life today? Because, and I know this so well because I've gone through many transitions in my life as well. And I know that through those different levels that I've gone through, I've filtered through so many people. And I too experienced depression and anxiety and stress and, times of despair and self-doubt. And how did your transitions, because you struggled from depression and alcoholism and you were distracted all the time, how did your circle of influence at that time shift from you now, where you are now?
Oh my gosh. So looking back, well, first I'll start with my childhood. I grew up in a Christian loving home and very healthy in many ways. And I grew up in a small farm town in Wisconsin. Like I said, I spent a lot of time doing imaginary play, and we knew our neighbors. And we had a garden, and I was homeschooled for a while, and we did art projects and field trips. And we lived like a very simple life. We lived with not much income. And so, like, we had a lot of good quality family time and experiences. And both sides of my family, my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family, like, it was, were very, they were very supportive and healthy, and their mindset and their beliefs and their morals. And so I had that great foundation as a child. But then moving into my 20s, the people that I surrounded myself with, um, I guess I would have to say in a loving, compassionate way, they didn't really help elevate me or make
Mhm.
me rise into my best self. Um, it was just a different mindset, a different mentality of these people. And it was very painful when I had to let those relationships go and say goodbye and realize that they were in my life for a specific period of time for whatever reason. And they've taught me a lot of lessons, absolutely. But now my circle of influence has completely changed. And honestly, some of the most inspirational people that I met is like just one-time meetings, like strangers that I met, like sitting on an airplane next to someone, or like meeting someone randomly in a coffee shop. Like some of those one-time interactions are like the most powerful and most potent. And like social media obviously has had a great impact and help in many ways, because I've like been inspired by these individuals that are doing what I aspire to do someday. Um, so my circle of influence has come from a lot of different sources. Um, there was a period of time where my family had the strongest influence on me and the way that I lived my life. And now, like I said, it comes from all these different circles, people all over the world. And so I feel very blessed to kind of like merge and take all these influences, and they all help me in different ways. And just in the last couple weeks, as I created my vision board for this year, the word leader kept coming up, leader and leadership. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, like I'm a leader. We're all leaders in our own way. We all lead by example, by the way that we speak, the way that we act, the things that we do each and every day. And for a while, like in my growth, I would always look up to people. Like I felt so much lower than them. And I thought so low of myself that I was like, I could never be them. I could never do that. I could never earn a living doing that. Or like I look up to them, but almost like someone that looks up to a celebrity. Like I could never get there. But now it's like I have a whole different perspective because I'm surrounded by all these beings that are doing what they love to do each and every day. They're making a difference in other people's lives. And we are leaders, and we need to help other people step into their leadership role through their mission and their calling. And it could just be like being a mother. It doesn't have to be extravagant, you know? And so in the small ways and the big ways, like we're all leaders. And it just like hit me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a leader and I have a
Yes.
responsibility.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you said that, because everybody has a specific DNA code, right? Like, comparison is trash. Yes, I said it. Comparison is trash, because why would you even want to have a cookie cutter lifestyle? Why would you want to look like everybody else? You know what I mean? Like, we are set apart to be so unique. We are uniquely designed, yet we are all the same. We are all a part of one body. And it would be a boring world if we all did the same thing or looked the same way. And it is really important that we go through those different phases of our life, though, because that's how wisdom grows. You don't grow wisdom through just reading books. I mean, it's great. I love to read. I read all day long, right? But I'm also going out and taking action and having my own experiences so that then we can have our own philosophies on life. With that being said, Carolyn, do you believe that your line of work infects society with positivity?
I would hope so. um, I'm a 500-hour certified yoga instructor. So I teach all different types of yoga and meditation. And so that's just a portion of what I do as far as my work goes and my career now. And it's interesting because when I step into the space that I'm teaching at, of course, I want to bring in happiness and joy and excitement and enthusiasm. But many people come into that space and they arrive at their mat with heaviness and burdens and sadness and all different things, and I have no idea what they're going through. And so I need to be very careful in the way that I present myself, as not to diminish the struggles and that they're facing and the trials that they're facing. And so I have to come in very gently and with love and also rawness and realness. And so I use a lot of theming through my yoga classes to kind of help people start to explore their emotions and their feelings and what they're going through. And I try to bring in relevant themes that people can relate to and get to help them really think about where they're at and where they want to be, and help them work through some of these difficulties. And hopefully they can leave their mat feeling better or have a greater perspective or even some direction. And so it's really hard. I don't want to be too loud or too overbearing. So I try to come in gently in that way. And then I'm also a nanny. I work with children, and it's interesting because, you know, I have hard days too. And those children always bring out the best in me. They bring out the smiles, the giggles, the laughter, the lightheartedness. And it's interesting because, like, even if I show up a little grumpy or don't have a lot of patience with the kids, like they teach me a lot too. And they bring me back to my child like essence. And then I can go and like kind of bring that into the adults and kind of sprinkle that around and see how they like that. And so it's kind of fun. And then I also do house and pet sitting, and animals too, like also have taught me so much about like how to be of comfort and how to give unconditional love. And so it's interesting how like I've learned so much from the diversity of the work that I do, working with all types of ages and then animals, and they've all taught me something and that I can give back to the world. And I use my social media platform to also spread that positivity through messages. And I recently started doing weekly episodes on a podcast, again, to hopefully just bring out truth and positivity. And we're in such a negative world right now, in a world of division and fear. And
Mhm.
so I'm just trying my best to be just another voice to kind of flip the script for people.
Man, I'm going to add to that because I know I have grown to learn about Carolyn over the last couple of years. And I will tell you that this woman pours so selflessly into people. Like we, at one point in our journey, right before I moved to back to New Mexico, we lived together, but it was like we didn't live together. We were just like borrowing a space and like coming in and out. Because she just mentioned all the work that she does. This is what it means to step out of the societal norms, right? Like we are taught that and conditioned to believe that we graduate high school, go to college, work a traditional job, get married, have kids, have the white picket fence, have tons of debt, have new cars, all the things. But when you see people like Carolyn, right, who is living her life so fearlessly and selflessly, you think that she has all the money in the world, but what it comes down to is the fact that you had to prioritize. She came into this world with not a lot, but oftentimes there's this misconception that you have to have millions of dollars in the bank to be wealthy. But in reality, I know tons of people with a lot of money and they're complete broke, like they're completely broke. And it really has everything to do with mindset and character and integrity. And this woman, like, if you don't follow her, it's She Rises 2020. And if you look at this woman's newsfeed, she practices what she preaches. This woman lives leadership every single day and she shows up for herself. And you know what, too, is that we all have a past, and oftentimes we live in that past every single day. And then because our lives are so passive, especially if you live a life of freedom, you tend to interact with so many people, right? And oftentimes people don't change. Stuff is happening, change is happening, right? But people don't change. They do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And just like Carolyn had mentioned earlier, that you have to step out of routine. You have to do something different. And Albert Einstein says that the definition of insanity is doing something over and over again and expecting different results. And Carolyn struggled from depression, anxiety, eating disorders, sadness. And she chose to use not her life as an excuse, right? Because we will have to make choices every single day, right? And we have free will. That's what free will is. And she chose to take all of that shame that she lived with and chose to use it for something greater, to pour love into herself, because she said it, you are created in the image of God. And therefore, because you are a reflection of that, you should treat yourself as such. And then that way you have the capacity to give to others freely and selflessly without any expectations. And I want to tell you, Carolyn, that you do that every single day. And I know how much you work on yourself, sister. Like you work on yourself so much. And the value that you give, that you can't even put a
No.
price point on that. You can't put a price on that. It's so valuable. And with this, I'm going to ask you this because I think it's really important for us to really reflect on the relevance of our work. And you already answered it in a little bit, like in a way, but I want you to really hit a little bit deeper on this. Is how do you stay relevant, unique, and true to who you are as a person, especially going through all of these transitions that you've gone through?
Um, oh gosh, great question. Before I dive into that, I just want to add into um, kind of what you just said. Um, and also bring in like the urgency and the power of now.
Mhm.
And I should have tied this in with how my philosophy's changed since my mom passed away, is like, we aren't promised tomorrow. And I hear so many people say, like, someday I want to do this. Someday I want to go there. Someday I want to travel. Someday I want to have my own business. Sometime I
Mhm.
want to make, my hobby something that's part of my everyday life, or I want to do more of this, or I wish I could do more of this. And like the power of now is like so crucial. Is like, you are the creator of your own reality. And even if you can't be living your dream life every single day, you can bring in different things and practices and rituals that kind of give you that flavor or that feeling or that experience. Um, so yeah, just had to throw in the power of now
Oh
into the
yeah, girl.
equation.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to do all the things that you do if you weren't in the now, especially as much as you selflessly give of yourself every single day. Um, and so that does, I mean, right there, that makes you so relevant and so unique because I mean, it's really sad to say, but you know, we have 200 billion cells in our brain, and the vast majority is only using about 10%. And you know, you've done 500 hours of yoga teacher training. Tell us about that.
Oh my gosh. Incredible. They were just incredible experiences. I did both of my trainings away from home. My first one was in Hawaii. My second one was an immersion between California and Peru. And then I just recently finished an online 60-hour trauma informed yoga teacher training led by Soul Work. And the leader um, is based out of Costa Rica. And I was able to gather with about 100 different souls through that 3-month training, and they're from all over the world. So that was incredible in itself. So we have so much to learn through the diversity of our world. And so getting back to kind of like being authentic and being relevant, you got to bring in diversity for sure and get out of like, if you're used to hanging out with the same type of people all the time in the same places, open your eyes. There's so much out there, and you can learn so much by talking to different types of people. And travel was a great way for me to do that. And I haven't been traveling as much recently, but you're still able to. I mean, we have technology, so we can still connect in and tap into other people. And I think definitely there's been a shift in the last few years. Like I know when I grew up, especially, it was all about like you were saying, like the cookie cutter lifestyle, like stay in the same career until you retire, and then you know what happens after that. I don't know, but nowadays I feel like people are so much more compelled and supported in doing their own thing and doing something new and innovative and creative and just being their self. So I love seeing it really um, come alive and and be supported by society.
Absolutely. And I think that that is another way to really stay relevant. And people are looking for influencers that are authentic, that are not just doing it for, um, you know, for self gain, for personal gain, because there are definitely a lot of leaders and influencers that are out there just doing this work for personal gain. But I really appreciate leadership like yours, right? And the influence that comes from you because you came from a place of you come from a place of understanding and compassion, empathy, unconditional love, and those are all traits and characteristics that we gain through experience and being like struggle. I mean, you have to really go through something tragic oftentimes for you to realize the worth of our life, just breathing. I'm interested to because I know that you were raised in a faith-based community, and you had mentioned that when you started doing yoga that you were scared. And did this have anything to do with the belief systems that you grew up with? Because I know for myself, it was something that was frowned upon. We were taught that yoga was demonic. It was evil. And it kind of took me a while to reframe my mindset when it came to it, especially going through my own experience with yoga, because I think I mean, it is a practice that everyone needs. It's just connecting with your breath, nothing more. What was your experience with that?
Thanks for bringing it up. Actually, my first ever yoga class was in a Christian yoga studio. So that was interesting. And it really helped me realize like how both of um, the things merge together, like Christianity and yoga. And then just in recent years, like I said, because I have an open mindset, I've been learning about just the wisdom that's in different belief systems, such as like Taoism and Buddhism, and honestly, it all comes back to love. Like it all comes back to love, and also the reminder that in this world there will be suffering, and how do you overcome suffering? And suffering can be our greatest teacher. And
Oh,
so I I totally believe in the power of the mind body connection, and I believe yoga was like just a gift from God. And so that's where I stand, and I'm glad to see that people of all types of backgrounds are being more open to it. Again,
yes.
that's been a big shift that I've seen in, like, I would say, like the last 5 years especially. Yeah, people are wanting more. They're seeking more, and they're seeking more now beyond just the physical transformation. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
they're realizing it. And throughout this past year with COVID, like there's been just a lot of relapse for people, and mental health issues and addictions coming back, and a lot of things resurfacing that people thought that they had taken care of or gotten rid of, or things that people have stuffed inside for so long and they've had time to sit with themselves. And it's hard to see these people. And so, us as light bearers doing the work that you're doing, Rebecca, like is so powerful. People need it more than ever, more than ever. You can't put a price tag on the value of the work that you're doing. So, you're greatly appreciated. And we just need to continue to grow this community.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. And I actually, that's very relevant with what I was going to ask you next, because in your bio, you talked about how you want to inspire people to really lead a life of higher purpose. And a lot of people talk about purpose, but oftentimes it's misconstrued for something that it's not. And I really want our viewers to know from the lens of Carolyn, right? What does that mean to you? And do you feel like your work that you do every single day is aligned with your higher purpose?
Right now, yes. Um, but the work that I'm doing now could change in a month or 2 or 3 months. And I'm very fluid in many ways. Like, I try to practice non attachment, and I always seek new opportunities. And yes, like I feel blessed that many things fall into my lap, a blessing and favor from the Lord, and I give thanks and praise for those things, those people that enter in, and the things where like there's like I hear another knock at my door and another knock at my door, and I just keep answering the doors, and like I love that. It's kind of overwhelming sometimes, but it does take some work and some effort to put yourself out there, and you have to reach out sometimes, and it goes both ways. And that's why I believe in the power of giving and receiving, those two channels. And I've actually mentioned that in a few workshops I've done. Do you receive easier or do you give easier? Like, what's easier for you, to give or to receive? And people are like, wow, that's a really hard question. And like, there's that power of exchange, right? That exchange of energy, the exchange of like helping one another. And it's not through materialistic stuff, it's not through money, but it's like the exchange of energy and your voice and like
Yep.
your words and your
Yep.
speech. And
Mhm.
so all these things that the creatives love to do, um, that has so much value. And so, yeah, I feel like I'm living in my purpose right now, and I feel good about the work that I'm doing, but I want to step into new spaces and places all the time, and do more and do something different. I don't want it to stay the same. I don't want to be
Yeah.
attached to one thing. And so, um yeah, the future
Oh my
is
God.
like the future's limitless. It really is. And
Totally,
so,
totally. And we only limit to ourselves from the experiences that we block from ourselves, right? Because I am a big fan of learning the chakra system.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talked about we're constantly exchanging energy, it's so true. I mean, Carolyn and I are literally like mirrors of each other, and we're literally exchanging energy as we're speaking. And so it is so important to protect your energy and also nourish your body the correct way. I like to, like, everything that I drink, solar energy, adaptogens, like, I mean, superfoods. Carolyn and I like really live a very similar lifestyle when it comes to what we feed our bodies. We live a vegan lifestyle, and we don't shame anybody who doesn't. Like, we're educators, and we understand the importance of good nutrients. But Carolyn struggled with an eating disorder her entire life. So did I actually was really overweight, and no shaming on being overweight, but remember that our body is a living vessel. It is a sacred temple. The Bible, even this simple scripture, your body is your temple. You really don't even have to go anywhere to worship God, literally. And so it's important to nourish your body with the right substance food, because when you pay attention to what your body needs, your body's literally telling you what to do. Like, your God is literally like channeling through you so that you are aligned. And what does alignment mean to you, Carolyn?
I think doing what um you talk about. It's like you can share all these good vibes and ideas or whatever, but are you really living it out? And what allows you to live it out? And I think, like, I always tell people, like, my big bowl of greens every day is like my brain superpower. And so it's like, I mean, if I were to be still eating the way I used to eat and not moving my body and just sitting all the time and working all the time and driving all the time, like, that's why I had no energy. I was so depleted. So I could say all these things, but I wasn't living it out, and I didn't have the energy
Right.
to live it out, and I didn't have the clarity, and my brain was fried, and just like I was brainwashed all the time, and like, oh my gosh. And so I definitely believe, like, in the power of like what you feel your body and mind with. It all is intertwined. Like, it affects your emotions, it affects the way you react, it affects the way that you deliver something, the way that you say something. And so, yeah, you got to keep a sense of purity
Yes,
within.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, this is an opportunity, especially after what happened in 2020, because we recognize, if you didn't recognize, you need to recognize that that literally your health is your greatest asset. And it's funny because I don't see this all the time, because my actual news feed on social media is very clean. And I see what I need to see. I see what I want to see. I see what inspires me. And right now I'm definitely on an elevated mind, body, soul like transformation. And we both have transformed our bodies significantly. But it's not about what society tells you, especially as a woman in leadership who protects and guards her body. Like, it's not about being showy of your body, right? We're not going to go out and like be naked, which if you do that, it's fine. But that's not what I'm like doing. I'm doing this because our body is a living vessel. And it's important to take care of your body, to pay attention to it when you're stressed and overwhelmed, that you ground yourself. And with that comes my next question, because you did mention this, and yoga has obviously been a huge part of your healing process. But what do you do on a daily basis that keeps you more grounded and balanced?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things. And I'm like actually really religious about it, especially my morning routine. And I know you, Rebecca, also are like a big fan of your morning routine. And after so many years of like rushing off to work and in traffic and like having to get up early when my body's not ready to get up, I really like honor that time in the morning to just lay in bed. I listen to a guided meditation most mornings, like for 10 to 15 minutes, someone's voice that I like is nurturing and like that brings upon good feelings. And then I take time and I um, focus on a quote or an affirmation or a scripture or two. And then I just take time thinking about what I want to do for the day, not not like a strict mental checklist, but I just kind of like evaluate what needs to be done. But before diving into it, I like take that time for myself, so that I can carry out my day with like more grace and more smoothness and less urgency or tension. And then in the middle of the day, if I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed or overworked or overtired, I do a yoga nidra session as like my nap time for 20 or 30 minutes and reset before I have to go into my evening, which I teach a lot of evening yoga classes, that are more relaxation type style classes. And then also, like, I feel like the way that you end your day is also important. So you're not carrying that into the next day. Is take time to clear. And I usually use my evenings to put on music, use essential oils, write or journal, anything that I need to just kind of just let go of the day. So, like I said, it doesn't carry over and build and build and build and build, because that's the worst. That's how anxiety starts to well up and build up inside of you, and toxicity starts to build up. So, but yeah, I'm a big believer of like setting a morning routine. And then I work in my movement. I move my body every day, but that varies on the time of the day,
Mhm.
depending on how I'm feeling energetically. If I'm not ready in the morning, I wait till later in the day. If I need a boost in the middle of the day, I'll do something in the middle of the day. Um, so you have to cater it to your lifestyle.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And did it take well, oftentimes people will look at, you and I, right, and think that we just have it all together and that our transformation literally happened overnight, right? And I know for myself, my journey has been, I mean, it's been an ongoing journey, but I want to say that the last decade, I have literally been like in construction zone. Like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just in isolation and through a lot of movement and change and self-reflection. um how long would you say it's taking you to get to this place in your life where you actually do feel balanced and grounded?
Gosh, well, that dividing line of old life and a new life drastically was like about 11 years ago. Um, I honestly think like the last year was like a big leap. Like I was doing what I wanted to do as far as like work wise. I felt like I was like I stepped into my passion and my purpose about 2 years ago. But then this last like year or so has definitely been going back to self, going
Mhm.
back to self, going back to self, going back to self.
Yes.
Um, so I think again, like I always tell people we're always a student, we're always a teacher, and just stay in that. Be okay with being new again, or revisiting something again, or refreshing on something again, and yeah, always be a student and always be a teacher. Like, don't hold
Yes.
back. Don't be shy about what you have to share with the world. It can be nerve wracking, to be on stage or on a platform, or to present something or to share something, and you don't know how it's going to be received, or if people are going to like it, or if they're going to knock you down. But just, yeah, just do it. Just put it out there. Say what you need to say. Don't hold back. Don't be shy. Someone needs to hear what you have to say. Even if you have 100 haters and you have one person that was like deeply blessed, like, keep going. Keep going.
Yes. Yes, you're
Yeah.
right. And you know what? People who are hating on you are actually just really mad that they're not doing the very thing that they wish they could do, because everybody's a mirror, right? And so, you know, if you're really in your purpose, there really is no room for you to badmouth anybody who's on a platform, because this amount of work, it takes so much work to
And
be able to,
bravery.
I mean, bravery, courage, fearlessness, strength, tenacity. Like, you have to be ferocious. And it's not like, literally, when we say go back to self, it's not about the ego self, because this is literally the road to spiritual enlightenment is not about, it really is about uprooting so many issues, toxicity, behaviors, like relationships. I mean, you name it. It's really uprooting all of those generational curses that are passed on to us generation after generation. And it really is up to you. It really is up to you to break those spiritual chains, right? And to live in your truth, and to just really be fearless in your approach to not personal gain. Like, spiritual enlightenment is getting rid of the ego self and going more into the spiritual self, where you recognize that you are like literally divine, and every single thing that you have to offer really has so much value to add, even if other people are doing it, because nobody shares your same story. And there's going to be a lot of people that don't resonate with your story, but there's another going to be another crowd that does, you know. So you just have to keep it moving, just like Jesus Christ did. What words of wisdom would you give to those seeking a deeper understanding of themselves?
Oh, wow. Go do yoga. I think a lot of times, like, people just don't know where to start. Like, they don't know where to begin. Like, and there can be so many layers, and like learning about these things in my trauma informed yoga teacher training is, like you said, it can be, a lot of it's generational stuff that's been passed down for years and years and years. And like, um I listened to some lectures about looking at like your ancestors and what they went through, and like going back in time in the family tree, and like there's stuff that's carried on, like, and stuff you don't even know about. Like, because back then people like didn't have social media, and people like were afraid to share their emotions, and like
Yeah,
it was a totally different world. And so
right.
like there are things like that are mothers and grandparents and great grandparents, things that they went through that we have no idea. And so like that generational trauma has been passed on, right? So there's like so many different layers, and then you add in all like the traumas that we deal with like in our own lives. You add that on, and then you add on everything going on in society and other people's traumas, and like how that affects us. And it's just like there's so much there. There's so many layers that you have to work through, and baggage and shame and regret, and like, oh my gosh, there's so many layers there. And it's definitely hurtful for the heart sometimes to go through the self-reflection and the self-work. And sometimes, you just need to start with really, really small doses, really, really small doses. And I just like encourage you to find someone that you trust, that you look up to, that you can open up to, and like have someone that you can share with on a deeper level, a safe person, or find a safe space. Like, maybe you need to do work alone, maybe you need someone. And like, it's going to be hard, it might be emotional, and it's not the easy path, but it's definitely a path that I'm glad I traveled on, and I haven't given up. Because I want to be better for not only the world, but especially those that I'm close to. I want to be better for them. I want to be more present for them. I want to help them. I want to get my eyes off myself, but also we do need to put our eyes on ourselves. And so that's a balance that I've tried to learn, is like not to feel bad about the time I'm taking to work on myself, because it's going to benefit my relationships, but also not to be so absorbed in my work and my life that I forget about my loved ones that need me, and to be there in their darkest hours. And and whether it's just holding space or letting them cry or talk or share. So it's a fine balance. But and sometimes you need to have more time for yourself and like less time with others, and sometimes more time with others to help them, and that means less time for yourself. It just depends on the season. And so just honor the season that you're in and do what you need in that season. And Rebecca, I know that you were saying, like, you went through a season where like your body just couldn't do a lot of movement. And there were seasons where like your body was craving movement. And so again, like just honoring what you need in the season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that comes with really taking the time to nurture. You know, as women, we are so good at nurturing other people. But I mean, I know through my journey, Carolyn, I would have to write words of affirmation on my mirror. And you know, I looked confident, but I still would beat myself up for, you know, the way that I didn't look. And so I would have to remind myself, and you saw, like, I would write words of affirmation and had post-it notes like all over the place, and I would write them in my, and I still to this day. But now that has become such a religious practice for me that it's literally engraved in my subconscious mind. And it's like, I don't even have to write it anymore to believe that it's true for me. And but that comes with really taking the time to know yourself, to date yourself, to, you know, hear your own thoughts and be able to write them down clearly, and to, you know, drink more water. You know what I mean? Drink more water and eat your greens, right? Like all of these things make a huge difference in the way that we feel and the way that we show up for this world. um I really want to hear a little bit more about your experience with mission work overseas, because I know, like, for myself, I came, I hate to say that I came from a poverty-stricken background, but like I really, I mean, when you think about it in our societal standards, I kind of did. My parents, you know, worked really hard and still didn't make a lot of money, especially being immigrants here. And so you know, I was able to go to the border towns and see how people really live impoverished lives. How did that change you when you started to experience that?
Um, well, I knew I wanted to do mission work since I was quite young, and I was just like waiting for the right opportunity. But I never thought I could be a missionary. So again, that kind of tied in with like my low self-image and low self-esteem. And I never considered myself a missionary. I never, but then when I realized like, oh, I could be a missionary, I was just waiting for the right opportunity, just waiting. I moved to Austin, Texas, and I found a church home and I started serving there. And the first Sunday they had a meeting after church for an India mission trip. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go to this meeting. And people are like, who are you? Like this is your first time being at this service. And now you're wanting to possibly go to India on this mission trip. And like, I pretty much committed within a week, and I was like, yep, I want to go. And that was like super eye-opening for me, because I actually came back and I was like physically sick for a few weeks, not because of like, I don't think it had to do with like the country or anything with the travels. It was just like I was purging a lot and like working
Sure.
through a lot emotionally from what I saw. And I just felt so guilty. I'm like, I have so much. I have so much. And I remember just like bawling. I'm like, I had a hard time even driving my car. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a car, I have a house, I have a bed. Like I was just like, I was almost like praying that God would take it all away. Like I felt guilty, like having
Yeah.
everything that I had. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much. I have so much. I have so much. And like our problems here, I say it's like first world problems, like really. And so like my first mission trip was really eye opening. And since then, I've been to Mexico and I've been to Guatemala a few times. And Rebecca, you've joined me on the Guatemala mission trip. It's through Outreach for World Hope, which is a beautiful organization. And missions, for a while, I was going like once a year, and it just refilled my cup and it reminded me of all that I have. And it was like it kind of was like a gratitude check on a whole different level. um, and yeah, missions have taught me so much, is another whole conversation and talk that we can have. And I really can't wait to get back on the mission field. But like our mission field is also our home zip code, and we're placed where we are for a reason. And Rebecca, you've moved so many times. I have moved so many times. It's nonstop. And I believe God takes people like us that are fluid and open and adaptable and flexible, and he uses us greatly because we've hit so many different zip codes. We've met so many different people. And, some people are meant to stay in a certain place for a long time, and that's great. But then there's people that are used by us that aren't married, that don't have kids, that don't have people that we need, like parents that we need to care for yet, or anything like that. And he uses us in a season to really like move into different mission fields. And I feel blessed not only to be a missionary here in my community through the work that I do, but also to take that further um, into different countries and places and spaces. So
Oh, oh, yeah, you're right. And it's really great to have been a part of organizations like Outreach for World Hope, because I never thought that I would be able to go on a mission trip. I thought that, you would have to take off weeks or months at a time and then, go out and find people to support you on a monthly basis. And what's great about Outreach for World Hope is that it's such a short mission trip that just about anybody could take off that short amount of time to do it. And the expenses that you have to pay are going to cover the cost of, your stay, your transportation, majority of your food, and also the supplies that they need to go out into the mission field and actually serve these families. And I can agree with you, Carolyn, that doing mission work changes your perspective on life and on consumerism and on just what society deems success to be. I look at these people, I remember going into these huts and having conversations with these women, and the amount of work that they've done, like without having all the luxuries that we have here in America. It's almost like I have nothing to complain about, right?
yeah.
Like we don't, and keep in mind that Carolyn and I, even though we are doing elevated work now, like we still have so much ground that we have to cover. And
Mhm.
I'd like to say that this is the beginning stage of our journey, like doing, I feel like, global mission work, because we're already, having collaborations with people that are on a global scale. And so, with this type of work, it takes a lot of responsibility. Wouldn't you agree,
I
Carolyn?
was just going to say responsibility.
It's
Absolutely.
huge. It's
Yes.
not
Huge
something that,
responsibility. We don't take it lightly.
yeah, you look at, when I talk about millions or like a lot of money, right? I was one day, Carolyn and I were talking, this was when I first transitioned to New Mexico, and I have a lot of aha moments, especially because I spend so much time alone. But I remember calling her and telling her, like, I had this epiphany, and I ran into where my parents were, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I just realized that I have been depositing into my energetic 401k since I was a seed in my mother's belly. That really, money is just energy. And the more that you divinely, uh, when you circulate it with divine responsibility, it grows to infinity. Literally, like the opportunities for you are limitless. But you also recognize through service and mission work that it really isn't about the money. Like if there's no fulfillment in what you do, you can have millions of dollars and still be unhappy, right? And so it's important that when you go out into this mission field, and you don't necessarily have to go to India or Mexico or Guatemala to do mission work, because literally mission work is everywhere. Being kind is mission work. You know what I mean? But through that, like through the work that we're doing on ourselves, we're able to really selflessly give this work. And it's like there's always going to be people to serve. There's always going to be people to serve. Carolyn, do you believe that that what happened in 2020 led us down a path of self-destruction, because we see now there's a rise of people wanting to take their lives, and it's happening every single day, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost as though like everybody forgot about all the chronic illnesses that are happening aside from COVID right now. It's just like all COVID. But what would you suggest to people that are having a really hard time with this transition that we're going into? Because I feel like what we went through these last couple of years really helped us transition into 2020 with more ease, right? And because we had gone through all the experiences that we've gone through, and recognizing that everything really is more passive, like it doesn't last. That emotion of depression doesn't last, right? And since you've done trauma intensive training, what would you suggest to people that are going through these very difficult transitions?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's almost like there's moments where, yeah, it's been hard on everyone this year in all different capacities. It's like we're in the same storm, but we're in a different boat, is what I keep telling people. And like, yeah, like I feel fortunate, like that I did a lot of the hard work to kind of equip me, I should say, or prepare me for this, for such a time as this. Um, and my heart breaks for the people that they feel like their world is like caving in on them. And I know some people personally where it's like they lost their job, they have an intense fear of COVID, they've seen loved ones pass away from COVID. There's all the political stuff, there's all the racial stuff going on and like division in that sense. There's a fear about the future. There's a lot of anger that people haven't been able to experience things that they were looking forward to, like seeing friends and family or celebrating together. So there's a lot of different emotions that are arising, and so there's been a big awakening for sure. And like I hate to say this, but there's also been the division between those that are choosing to like stay in the deep dark places and those that are looking to rise and like elevate and learn and like step up to the plate. And I have to share this quick story if you don't mind. A couple of weeks ago I started teaching at a mental health hospital, and I go in the evenings, and these are people that are recovering from addictions or going through mental health struggles. And I teach them meditation and yoga from a chair. So it's mostly all seated work for the most part. And last week I was teaching, and near the end of class, I just felt like taking them through some guided meditation and some imagery to kind of help them visualize themselves taking steps forward, right? Getting out of that feeling of being stuck and visualizing yourself taking steps, like first being in a place where you want to be and visualizing that place, that beautiful place that makes you feel good, taking yourself back to that place. And then I mean, everyone was seated, so I was just guiding people, right? And I just said visualize taking a step forward, and there were a few men in the room that stood up on their feet. Like they were so into the meditation, they thought like I was telling them to like take a step forward or take a step up or whatever. They rose up. They rose up on their feet. And at that point, like a couple of the people were standing up and the rest of the people were still sitting down in the meditation. And so like, and out of nowhere, like someone, I don't know, a staff member or something in the facility accidentally interrupted, opened the door, flipped the light on because we had the lights off. So the light flipped on, then the light flipped off. Some people were standing up, some people were sitting down, and I just like was like, did you see the light? And then like, did you see the light? And then did you feel like you should rise up? And if you rose up, like stay there, like come out of where you were and continue to rise and continue to see the light. And the worker, because I always have one of the workers with me in the room for safety, they kind of oversee all the patients. And at the end of the session, even the worker was like, whoa, what happened? And I'm like, that was the Holy Spirit moving, like, and working through me. And like, you can be amazed, like, at what can happen when you help people get into like visually, just
Yeah.
mentally come back to the present moment, ground yourself, and then visualize yourself. The power of the mind is so powerful. And it was like a testimony to me. So by using your testimony and your gifts, you can watch these things, miracles happen before your eyes. That was a miracle. Seeing those men rise up, like that was
Mhm.
so powerful.
That
And
is so
so,
powerful.
yeah, I just encourage people, like, there is still good things happening in the world. There are still good things happening. It's dark times right now and it's hard times, and I call it revelation times, but there are still good things happening. And that was just a big moment a few weeks ago where I was like, things are still happening. So thank you, Rebecca, for like the work that you're doing. And like, I feel so grateful for all those people that are in my circle that are having these moments of seeing the light, seeing hope, seeing hope.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that that's what we're here to do. We're here to go through our human experience. And I mean, we face adversity, obstacles, challenges, all the experiences, but I often really I use this in the analogy of the polishing of a diamond. A diamond is a piece of coal when it first, I mean, goes through the process of becoming a diamond. And so it has to go through a lot of roughing and heat, right? High heat. And the more polishing that is contributed to the creation of this diamond, the more valuable this diamond is. But it has to go through the fire first. It has to
Yeah.
go through a major roughing and transformation process in order for it to go to from a coal to a valuable diamond. And that's really how our life is. And again, like the invitation to open your perspective to a different way of looking at your life and what's happening around you, because our life really is a reflection of our own perspective. We can be standing in the same room and looking at the same piece of art, and we're going to have a completely different interpretation of that piece of art. And really, what that piece of art is meant to do is it's meant to awaken or evoke an emotion, and really even going down the really looking at the piece of art as journeying through the artist's perspective and being open to it, right? Being accepting of it, being and allowing yourself even to like process through it without attaching to it. Because Carolyn talked about the importance of detachment. And boy, have I learned that lesson numerous times, especially in 2020 when I had to sell all my stuff. And what I kept was what was most valuable to me. And literally everything in this little box room is what I kept. And I had so much, Carolyn, you lived with me. And even like it was a purging process, because it was about a 3 or 4 year progression of getting rid of that stuff. And so, yeah, you are so right. Like accepting of where you are in your season and letting go of everything that happened yesterday, including the physicalities of it. Sometimes people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people, toxic ways of thinking, of being, of doing, the food, the junk food, all of it.
Yeah. And it's not, like you said, an overnight change. Like, it takes constant work, constant daily work. Yeah. To keep your mind set where it needs to be. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. What do you think, and this is going to be the last question, and I'm going to have you, close out with us, and then I will end the segment. But what was your like aha moment or biggest takeaway from your entire 2020?
I guess evaluating how much time I spend in the different areas of my life. Like if you want to look at it as like a pie. And that dramatically changed for me in a good way. The amount of time that I was investing in valuable conversations that weren't rushed with my beloved friends and family, more time was spent in that piece of the pie. Self-care, more time was spent in that piece of the pie. My morning ritual, more time spent there. More time on my creative stuff. And the value of investment, like, wow, that was a big thing for me. Cause like you said, like a lot of the work that we do, like we don't get paid for. And a lot of the stuff that we pour our heart and soul into, like it doesn't come back in monetary ways. It comes back in different ways. And a lot of times people don't understand the work that we're doing, or they question the work that we're doing, or like how we're spending our time. And like, but that realization of like that has so much value on other people's lives and making a difference. And like we have to hold on to that and not let go of that, and not let that like take us off our track and away from our daily mission. Um, so yeah, I think 2020 really helped me reevaluate, like I said, like where I'm putting my time. And also it helped me work with fear. And I'm still
Mm,
working with like what fear is and like how to help people move through their fear, because this pandemic has like really had like an outbreak of fear over anything else. You talk about the outbreak of a virus. No, it's an outbreak of fear. And fear is like a killer. Like you were talking about that in your last session with your last guest, is like fear is a killer, big time. It prevents us from so many different things. So,
it's
but
the very
there's so many valuable lessons that I learned last year, and I'm in the digestion phase. Really. It's been
well,
hard for me to come into my visionary stuff for this year. I'm just kind of starting that, but I'm still like digesting the lessons that I learned from last year. Yeah.
oh yeah. Oh my gosh. That is
And then the
amazing.
feminine and the masculine, that's another whole conversation we can have, because like I opened up my heart to love again, and like the masculine energy and the things that they're going through has been very different from the feminine energy. And that could be another whole thing that we could have a discussion on. And so it's like, what's my role in helping the masculine world?
Mhm,
And
uh-huh.
as much as I was focused on women and women's groups and all this kind of bringing women together, now I'm like feeling like the men need me, and not in
Yeah.
the way maybe that I want to be there. I want to be a life partner for someone, but I feel like both of us have also felt like we're starting to learn how to work with the masculine. And
Yeah.
that's something, it's like, I don't know if I'm qualified to do quite yet, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's funny that you say that because I actually, a lot of the people that I work with are men, and masculine and feminine energy is actually it's one, right? So we both possess the masculine and feminine energy. It's just that not everybody activates that. And typically it's the right and left brain, where majority of people only operate off of one part of their brain, where in reality it is a collective, right? Like we operate from the fullness of our mindset. It's our supercomputer. And so there are a lot of people that tend to be confused when it comes to that, because it's like you have to have the upper like mask or feminine energy when you're a woman, and then men have to be really masculine. Well, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? It really, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about the heart and mind coherence, and that when you have that activated, that literally there's no choice but to operate off the masculine and feminine energy, which is going to give you more emotional intelligence. It is going to give you more of a nurturing ability, and men need that too. So that's why women, it's so important for women to step up in their power and their leadership. And it's not about influencing with sex, because we don't do that. here. We don't influence people or men with sex because of our feminine energy. We operate off of the fullness of our intelligence and our brilliance. And we don't have to expose our body to influence anybody or to get attention. That's not what we do here. We literally operate off of what God has given us. And we do have a body, and women are, we're all shapes and sizes, and we're all beautiful in our own unique way. But it is really important as a woman to really understand what your gifts are and what your powers are, not to use them for manipulation or to gain something from someone, because you yourself are so valuable. You're a queen, you are a goddess, you have so much influence to bring to this world. And the fact that you have the ability to nurture a human being inside of you should give you the awareness that you are more than just your physical body, and that you have more to offer than just that. So we do have a responsibility. And just you being in those spaces already, Carolyn, like that is, it's exposing men to a side of a woman that they need, because every man needs, we're the rib, right? Like we are literally the backbone of a man. And so yeah, we are definitely more than just life partners, though. I think that's why God has really allowed for our lives to unfold the way that they did, and even not getting married at an early age and not having children, but even having the capacity to work in homes, because you and I both have experience working in different family dynamics, different ages, age groups, ethnicities, social backgrounds, right? Like financial backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. And so it gives us it gives us really an opportunity, because there's not a lot of women enough. There's not enough women that have the diversity that we have, and the diverse skill set, really, that can be used to fully help people restore at a cellular level. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing, the value that you're adding every single day, because girl, you are literally creating waves. And I'm so grateful to see, to be able to witness your life unfold, so beautifully. You have earned it. You know what I mean? Like you have, God has so much in store for you, and I'm so grateful to be a part of that. So, do you have ending statements that you want to include?
Oh my gosh, I can't say enough about you, Rebecca. I appreciate you so much. I'm so glad that we were brought together, and I would have never imagined that our first interaction would have led to something like this. So it's amazing to see where we were at that point and where we are now. And I look forward to collaborating with you and with others in your circle in the near future. I just feel so blessed and favored to have you in my life. Thank you. Thank you so much. Like,
Oh, I love you. I love you so much. And oh man, like I owe you. It's just that there's really no words to express how much, like, I really appreciate you. And you definitely have made such a huge difference in my life. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I can, because I think that, everything that we've been able to achieve together and to be able to create together has just been so beautiful and so divinely orchestrated. So I know that God is going to use us on many platforms, and I'm so excited for that. So with that, we end this session, and I'm so grateful for the time that you spent, to be able to invest your valuable resource in listening into this conversation. Our prayer is that you are impacted, and that this really shifts your perspective to forward thinking, and to recognize that your past is not it's not doesn't define who you are as a person today, and that you can change the trajectory of your life at any given moment. You have so much support and the ability to connect with us, right? I will share Carolyn's contact information in the description of this video. And I am so excited for all the conversations that we are going to be having on this platform. Continue to tune in. You are loved, you are appreciated, you are valued. We are sending you so much love and light, and we will see you soon. Blessings. Peace.